All right, we are on fight day. Terrence Crawford versus Aegis Kalvanakis. Also, Teofimo Lopez is fighting for a world championship against Richard Comey. Before we watch that fight, I want to talk about a couple things that Bob Arum said about Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford, because, hey, man, that is a more interesting conversation than this mismatch that they're putting on in New York with Terrence Crawford and Aegis Kalvanakis. Specifically, he says, Bob Arum says that they can make that fight happen in a minute if Errol Spence is healthy enough, but then he goes to recklessly speculate about the man's health in the face of public statements that have been made otherwise. He also complains about ticket sales. Let's go over that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel, subscribers. If you are not subscribed, please subscribe and hit the bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. Much love to everybody that supports the channel through the channel memberships. Also, the Patreon community, thank you guys so much for your support. And I want to give a special thank you out to the people that come to OG Boxing Talk. Sunday mornings we'll be having, this is Saturday of the fight with Terrence Crawford and Richard Comey versus Teofimo Lopez. So we're going to have a lot to talk about tomorrow morning on OG Boxing Talk, 8 a.m. Central Standard Time with myself, Curtis Anderson, Blood Boxing, Trap House Boxing, and KQKC Boxing. So let's get into this. All right, so we know there's a mismatch going on tonight between Terrence Crawford and Aegis Kalvanakis. Many of us have known that this fight was going to be made right around the maybe 3 hours after Jeff Horn got done fighting Terrence Crawford. Back in, I do believe that's 2000, maybe early 2018. Yeah, early 2018. Knew this fight was going to get made. How did I know that this fight was going to get made? Because Aegis Kalvanakis is one of the very few welterweights that is signed to Top Rank. And Bob Arum loves in-house fights. Bob Arum was asked about ticket sales for Terrence Crawford, and because the ticket sales just aren't going that well, you know, and he talks about how that is a big problem in the sport of boxing, and it's because we're not having A-level fighters fight other A-level fighters. That it's because of these mandatories, and people aren't interested in the mandatories, so they can't sell tickets and all of that stuff. So, but there is one fight for sure for Terrence Crawford that people would be interested in and be interested in buying tickets for. That is an Errol Spence Jr. Terrence Crawford fight. Now, Bob Arum says quite recklessly that they could make that fight in a minute, the one between Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence Jr., if Errol Spence Jr. is healthy enough to make the fight. But we don't know if he's got, you know, grotesque facial injuries. Those are very severe injuries that he suffered, you know, because he's got an inside source. It says that Errol Spence Jr. has suffered these injuries, and we don't know if he's coming back for the foreseeable future. All of that stuff, basically throwing water on the fight between Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford, saying it, you know, it might not happen in 2020, maybe not happen in 2021, might not happen for the foreseeable future. Two problems with his facts are this. Number one, we know Errol Spence does not have grotesque facial injuries because there's a mugshot of him. Now, I'm not going to show the mugshot in this particular photo. I mean, in this particular video, you can go look it up for yourself. I'm not going to do that to the young man. I'm not interested in having conversations about his accident and all that. But as far as information that are out there on public record, one, there's a picture of him after the accident with a bloodshot eye and his face with some scars on with some cuts on his face. But other than that, just nothing really there to it. There was also another photo where he gave a thumbs up when he was actually out at a restaurant, I believe in a kitchen. He took a picture with somebody else. And most importantly, Mauricio Suleiman said that there was no need to have Errol Spence Jr. become champion in recess for the WBC because they saw they saw the medical report for Errol Spence Jr., and there was nothing in there to make them believe that Errol Spence Jr. was going to be out for unrealistic, or excuse me, for too long a period of time. There's also conversations with people quoting Errol Spence and saying that he believes he's going to make his return in March, which was basically pushing his last fight out from January to March. So unless Bob Arum's inside sources have better sources than, actual mugshot, and Mauricio Sulaiman saying that he saw the medical report and there was no need for him to put Errol Spence as a champion in recess because of an injury, then, hey man, come out with your sources. But let me tell you what I really believe is going on there. It's a continuation, and this is the connection to the ticket sales thing as it relates to Terrence Crawford. Bob Arum does not want to promote Terrence Crawford. Bob Arum does not have any interest in making Terrence Crawford a big star because Bob Arum has eyes for Vasily Lomachenko. Bob Arum has, and that is been the focus of Bob Arum's star-making exploits as a promoter since the time he signed Vasily Lomachenko. It's never been about Terrence Crawford. Now, to go through this in some detail, but not as good detail as Best Fight the Best has on his channel, because he did a breakdown with audio of Bob Arum and the lead up to making the argument that, and making it very convincingly, that Terrence Crawford is either complicit or he's stupid. That was the argument that BFTB, if you're not familiar with BFTB's channel, man, there's some heated debating going on over there. But other than tearing people new one on those debates on his channel, the guy is a meticulous researcher of current modern day events. And he has the timeline. And what he said was, and he showed, was that Bob Arum purposely kept Terrence Crawford from fighting Manny Pacquiao. And that Manny Pacquiao, according to Manny Pacquiao, and I think it was Manny Pacquiao said it in January of this year, and I think he might have also said it in May of this year. One interview sounded like it was an IFL interview, and the other one was an interview with Fred from Barbershop Conversations, where Manny Pacquiao said, I wanted to fight Terrence Crawford. I wanted to fight Terrence Crawford before I fought Jeff Horn. But Bob Arum wouldn't. He said, I don't know why they didn't give me the fight. Bob Arum, at one point in time, I think back in 2016, said that Terrence Crawford, that Manny Pacquiao didn't want the fight, and he didn't know exactly why Manny Pacquiao and those guys didn't want to take the fight with Terrence Crawford. But hey, Terrence Crawford was a potential fighter, but also, now totally unconnected to the question, Bob Arum brings in Vasily Lomachenko. And it says, because the fight that I really want to see is Manny Pacquiao versus Vasily Lomachenko. So when asked about the possibility of Terrence Crawford fighting Manny Pacquiao, Bob Arum claimed that Manny Pacquiao said that he didn't, and his team didn't want to fight Terrence Crawford, but it was a potential. It was potential, but what Bob Arum really wanted was for Terrence Crawford to fight. For Manny Pacquiao to fight Vasily Lomachenko between 135 and 140 pounds. Then, after confronted with the information about why the fight with Manny Pacquiao saying that he wanted to fight Terrence Crawford, Bob Arum changes his story and says, well, I killed that fight. I killed that fight because I knew what the outcome was going to be, and I didn't want to see Manny Pacquiao get hurt at that time in his career. So the long story short of it is that Terrence Crawford believes that Bob Arum is trying to make fights for him, right? So Bob Arum is saying, yeah, he's going to reach out. He's going to try to make the Errol Spence Jr. fight. But what reality tells you was the last time Bob Arum had an opportunity to make a major fight for Terrence Crawford, which was the Manny Pacquiao fight, a fight that Manny Pacquiao said he wanted, a fight that Terrence Crawford said that he wanted, Bob Arum went out of his way to kill the fight. because he really wanted Vasily Lomachenko to have that shot at Manny Pacquiao and not Terrence Crawford. Because because Bob Arum has eyes for Vasily Lomachenko. He wants Vasily Lomachenko to be the big star and to give him the opportunity to beat a Manny Pacquiao and become the superstar. That's what Bob Arum wanted. He never wanted for Terrence Crawford to be a superstar. So when Bob Arum is talking about these ticket sales issues, maybe we should reflect back on the opportunity that you had to actually grow Terrence Crawford as a star, so people would be interested in buying tickets to see him for him and him alone. There are other fighters that do not have problems selling tickets. Errol Spence Jr. is one of them. Errol Spence Jr. sold out the practice facility for the Dallas Cowboys against Carlos Ocampo. He also sold 35 or over 40,000 tickets for the actual the stadium the Dallas Cowboys fight in. There are tickets being sold. They're just not being sold for people whose promoters don't believe in them, whose promoters go around running around talking about how Vasily Lomachenko is #1 pound for pound and not Terrence Crawford. Promoter that sets up a fight in New York for Vasily Lomachenko specifically so that fight can be had in front of the Boxing Writers Association of America. And then what happens? They turn around, that same Boxing Writers Association of America turns around and gives Vasily Lomachenko the Fighter of the Year, even though Vasily Lomachenko only fought one guy in his own weight class that year, and he was a journeyman named Jason Sosa. The other two people that he fought against were Guillermo Rigondeaux, who was coming up from 2 weight classes below that, coming up from 122 to 130, and Miguel Mariaga, who was coming off a loss and coming from 126 to 130. But somehow they found a way to give the Fighter of the Year award to Vasily Lomachenko over Terrence Crawford, who unified the 140-pound division and told Terrence Crawford that the reason why they voted for Vasily Lomachenko over him was the level of the opposition. Man, please. First of all, Errol, I don't believe Bob Arum wants a fight for Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. I don't believe he wants the fight. And it could be because he doesn't think Terrence Crawford could win the fight, or if it's close enough to a fight where he feels like, we don't know what the outcome's going to be. Or it could be a situation where he just flat out don't care about Terrence Crawford being successful, and he would rather have Terrence Crawford toting the water for guys like Teofimo Lopez in his maiden championship fight, right? Because that's what the big fight is tonight. The big fight tonight is Teofimo Lopez versus Richard Comey. It's not a Terrence Crawford mismatch with Egis Kalvanakis. But anyway, let me know what you think in the comment section. With that, I'm out. Enjoy the fights. Peace.